welcome to another edition of Political Scope. I'm your host, Edward Lane, and I have with me in studio this evening the Honorable Jennifer Westford, Minister of Public Service. Minister, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
I want our discussions today to focus on the public service and the important role that public servants play in national development. Often people see the end product of negotiations of development across the country by the various ministries, the various government agencies, the various areas in which public servants operate. But they're oblivious of the efforts the public servants, the average public servant, play in ensuring those projects, programs, etc. materialize. So I want our discussion to focus in more of a non-traditional way on the role of the public service. I want you, though, in your opening comments with regards to a general view of the role of the public service.
Okay, thank you very much once again. Actually, the public service. Let's first start off saying that we have the traditional and the non-traditional public service. The traditional public service, that's where we speak about our ministries, normal ministries, education, health, public works, and the others, the regional administrations. And then we have the non-traditional public service, which are our semi-autonomous agencies, our discipline services. They make up the non-traditional sector. All of these persons, what are their role? Their basic role is to ensure that the government's developmental programs are implemented efficiently and effectively so that service to the nation as a whole is done efficiently. Now, oftentimes we look at the officials, let's say, for instance, you look at, let's go back to Parliament and the Minister of Finance. I hope you can recall when there was a call from the opposition for the Minister of Finance and some of his staff to resign.
And as following the 2014
budget.
Yes,
following the 2014 budget. And if you recall, the minister rightly praising his staff and saying, look, all that is happening here, all that I'm presenting here is as a result of the hard work, the dedicated work of my staff, who they don't have a face in the public as such. But they're behind the scenes. They make things happen. They are the implementers of these policies, of these projects, of these programs. Without them, we're not going to see this progress. And that's the reality and that's the role of the public service. For them to impart holistically this role, though, there's several facets, several things that must come together. And we must have, because if we cannot ask a carpenter who just can build a little foul pen to go and construct a 10-story concrete building. So it means we must create the enabling environment, which means we have to have adequate staff, fully qualified staff in order to do these things. And again, it's like a chicken and an egg, because the very persons who are implementing our programs are also, some of them based on agencies, responsible for ensuring that we have adequately qualified staff to do implementation of other programs too.
I want to talk to you. You raised a very important point in terms of being qualified, because often people don't hear much about what. Okay, I enter the public service. I may enter after writing CXE. I get a job. I may show some promise, being able to do certain things, being an asset per se for the ministry. What has the government has been doing, and this I suspect behind the scenes, because you're not hearing much about it, in terms of qualifying and upgrading those individuals in the public service to ensure that they have the right tools to effectively execute their tasks.
Okay, Eddie, you used a word qualified. Yes, after leaving school with their CXCs, CAPE, persons will come into the public service. We do have persons also coming in with degrees, university degrees, and they enter the public service in various fields, various areas. Um, we have to be careful here though. And I oftentimes see a qualified person is not necessarily an educated person. They're two different at two different extremes.
I would love to hear your analogy.
Yes, we can have a qualified persons, like for instance, I can get a staff coming into the public service with 10 grade 1 CXCs, 2 degrees, a master's degree, a PhD, and they can enter, they're qualified, they're fully qualified. But what you'll find, they may not be educated in functioning within the public service. To be an educated public servant, you have to inculcate certain norms, certain, that for instance, as simple things as punctuality. And those are things that you're taught when you come into the public service if you do not come with it. Because we are finding that persons are not coming with such morals and norms. So punctuality, very, very important. Someone being just 5 minutes late for work can have so much of repercussions. Let's say you're there. Let's say you are a clerk. You come to work 5 minutes late. When you come to work 5 minutes late, you have persons waiting on you who are there coming. Let's go to an agency, GRA. Very busy agency. You go to GRA, the person there is 5 minutes late. You are waiting. You cannot have your documentation done for your license or whatever it is you're going for. You have to go back to your work or you have other things to do. It means you are going to be late for whatever you have to do. And there's a spin-off to that. The other thing is that if someone in your agency comes late, they have a task. Let's come back right home to your agency. You have a cameraman that has to go and do some work to cover some activity. He comes 5 minutes late. That activity he has to cover is very important. What do? You have to remove someone else to go and cover that activity, which means their job that you had planned for them to do cannot be done. So what we do within the public service, as persons, when persons come in with their qualifications, we have several upgrading courses which teach people normal ethics of functioning within the public service, and those are done within Guyana. We have, on a yearly basis, the Public Service Ministry, we organize courses for various levels, telling people what is expected of them when they come into the public service. How do you treat persons, customer care, patient, in the health sector, patient care. We also academically upgrade persons based on the job they're doing. Because when you come in with your qualifications, your academic qualifications, there are certain peculiarities of the job that you're expected to do. And that's where you have to learn more. We send persons mostly out of Guyana on short upgrading courses in their related fields. All in all, this is to ensure that we give them the tools to function, to ensure that we have maximum output from them.
You touched on customer care in the public service, and this is a very touchy area, because often you hear comments from persons who would have visited various agencies where public servants operate, and you hear they operate here like real public servants. I have to wait so long. No one coaches to me. People showing up late for work. They 3 o'clock they wrap up and say, well, I'm finished working, and they're supposed to finish at 4:30. How is your ministry being able to address those issues? Because those are the little common issues that really affect the average man.
Yes, you're right. Um, and in fairness to those persons, we paint, and again, you're right. People say you operate like the public servant, like a public servant. And incidentally, this is not only in Guyana. I visited other countries, and that's the talk. Public servant, the public sector, they don't
So we
care.
have a reputation around the world
Yes, there is a repetition
as
around
public
the world of the
servants.
public servants, which I would like to say has been changing, and I must congratulate those individuals who have made the effort and are still making an effort, and more so congratulate those who perfectly behave in the right manner, speak to persons, speak with persons, and treat them as they ought to be treated when they come to one of our agencies. But it is a hard task. We it's something continuous. You can I can teach you, I can give you a qualification. I can send you and upgrade your status. I can make you learn to do something better. The hardest thing to do is changing persons' attitudes. Attitudinal changes are the worst thing that you can try to do, the hardest thing you can try to do. But we cannot give up. We have to continue. We have to keep letting people know this is how you ought to behave. Remember, we're having persons coming into the public service from all walks of life. They may not be exposed to the right things before they get there. They may have been exposed to the wrong things throughout their lives. We have persons of all ages. Imagine me trying to tell a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old person, this is not how you speak to persons. This is what you do when you come in. You say good morning or good afternoon. Can I help you? Seems strange, but true. Because they haven't been exposed to such things. They weren't taught that these are the right things to do. So this is where we have to keep training and talking and not, pulling them down, but letting them know these are the right things. And I appreciate when persons make their comments. Some of them will make it nicely, some of them harshly. But I want to encourage persons, when you're not treated in the way you think you ought to be treated in a public institution, to make your voices heard. So that, because if we don't know what's happening out there, we will not be able to change it.
But do you agree that it may be these kinds of behavior may be as a result of poor management at the level of those agencies in terms of managing people properly, ensuring that people are on time, ensuring that people execute their functions in the manner in which they're supposed to?
It all boils back, these things all boil back down to management. And to be fair to some of the managers, you can put, you have rules and regulations in place. Enforcing those rules and regulations at times, it's a little ticklish, the enforcement of those rules and regulations. I can say, though, that we have had gross improvement over the years. I can tell you our punctuality and our absenteeism within the public service has improved. If we want to put it down to a percentage, let's say 10 years ago, if it was at 50%, we can safely say now it's at probably 90%. So there we have a lot of improvement. Basically, one, because we have been talking a lot to persons. Two, we have been changing the method of doing things. We are using more efficient methods of monitoring that persons can't readily forge. And, we are very good at looking, finding ways around things. So it has improved, and I think our managers or administrators, they have been working very hard along with the system, ensuring that these things are put in place. But again, it's also a hard task for them. Not forgetting, though, that some of our breakdown comes from the very managers. Because if I am telling you to come to work early, it's only right for me to be there on time, unless, save and except, there is something important, work related, that I have to do before coming in. So I can't tell you to come on time and I'm not on time, because we have discipline starts from the top. We must always remember that.
Of course, our discussions are centered on the role of the public service in development and nation building. My guest this evening is the Honorable Jennifer Westford, Minister of Public Service. Minister, if we can go back to our topic where we started off,
Yes.
I know we branched out a little to examine a couple of other issues, but having listened to you initially with regards to the role of public servants, we have seen many major projects in this country. We have seen many major programs and initiatives being implemented by public service
Yeah.
agencies, and most of that, the groundwork, the behind the scenes work are done by the public servants, starting from the cleaner, the driver, the clerk, the managers, everybody. Each and every person would play a role in that process. But sometimes there is this view by some that politicians generally sometimes use public servants as a political football when it comes to talking about all sorts of things, and try to get them involved and bring them into, to create some sort of confusion. Do you share that view?
Yes, we have seen that at times, and we try to, at the level of the public service ministry that has the constitutional mandate of ensuring that the public service is managed properly. When we see this, like for instance, we could look back at all the fiascos that were leveled against the public servants. There was talk about the opposition, about the contracted workers. We will not give them money, we will not pay them. This very agency, the staff has been to the brunt of it in the fight against the opposition and the government. NCN, their budgets were cut, Gina's budget was cut. And at the bottom line of it, it's the staff, the workers, who were placed in jeopardy, because it's the workers who would not have been paid in all this whole back and forth. It's wrong because the workers, the public officers, the public servants, they are there, as their name connotes, to serve. They are there, they provide a service. They implement all of these programs that benefits the nation, whether you be from whatever religion, from whatever political party, whatever race you are, you benefit from the work of these individuals. And they work ardently, irrespective of what religion they are from, what political affiliation they have, or what race or whatever they are. They work conscientiously, and I can attest to that. They work conscientiously to do their work. And I think we should stop making them, as you want to say, a political football. Allow them to perform their duties, whichever. And the thing about the public service, our workers are always there, irrespective of which political party or who is in government. They have to perform their duties. They have to work. And they know that. They're professionals. And that comes first and foremost with them. So we have to allow them to do that.
We have seen comments and statements and calls by either political parties or organizations and or groups that are aligned to political parties, mainly in the opposition, making calls for huge salary increases for public servants. I suspect, oblivious of the fact that what the country can afford at a particular point. Is this, in your view, too, another attempt at using public servants to score political points?
It is. It is. The reality is, irrespective of where you go, whichever country you go to, persons will always want more money. And I will always be, and anybody will always be, amenable and listen to someone who is advocating for me to have more money. Money is never enough. And I think it's all a game in trying to see, even though the members of the opposition and other persons, such as the trade unions, they are fully well aware of the ability of the country to pay more money. We would like to, the government would like to pay, and any government worth its salt would want to pay their public servants, their public officials, a living, a very good salary, because they're the persons who will make them look good, who will have to implement their services. And it's their workers. And I always said, and you know, it's not the union's workers. It's the government staff. It's the government's workers. And we will be responsible enough to ensure that their work in their job-related benefits and their terms and conditions of employment, that is adequate based on what we can afford. And we have shown that over the years, we have, within our means, been increasing public servants' wages throughout the years. From 1992 to date, there has never been an occasion when we haven't done that. Even though we had hardships, we tried within our means to ensure that every year they get a little something on their salaries. And this year, we even went a step further, and I must say that our public servants at the higher levels, they're very understanding, because what we did this year, we gave the lower brackets of persons a higher percentage than the top brackets, because we recognize with the cost of living going up and all the other things, that we needed to get our persons getting the lower brackets of salaries coming up a bit. And we did so when to the, you know, with the persons in the higher brackets, they did not make a big fuss about it. And we're hoping that with good management of the economy, with the PPP returning into power after the next general elections on May the 11th, that our development will continue. We will have more investment coming into the countries. We will not have a minority government as we have now, where we will be able to have all of our projects properly passed through the parliament, our hydro project system, our new hospitals, and that we will have cheaper electricity based on our hydro project coming on stream, and we will have more investment coming into Guyana, because the cost of electricity is a huge barrier to us having more agencies, more industries coming into Guyana, to have more employment, to have more money circulating, more development, and as such, being able to pay our public servants even better. So I know that will happen. So after May 11th, this country will see more and more and more development, and our public servants can live a far better life. And I must say, they're living at a better level. As a matter of fact, I was hinting to someone the other day, I was on the road driving, and it took me approximately 2.5 hours to get from the public service ministry to La Penitence. Not because I was driving slowly and doing sightseeing, because of the traffic buildup on the road, and because of the time in which I was trying to do that, which was approximately 4:35, just after work. And it dawned on me as I was looking, the amount of public servants who are driving, having their own car, and they have now entered into the middle class, and they're much more comfortable than they were years gone by. And we hope and we intend to ensure that they continue to enjoy that comfort and that so that they can come to work and give conscientiously to what to do the work that they have to do.
Often, and it may be deliberate, emphasis is only placed on how much public servants are paid. But of course, I know I am a part of the public service, and I know there are other benefits that public servants can look forward to, um, whether long term or short term or medium term. But being a member of the public service, there are other benefits. Often, politicians and those who tend to speak on behalf of public servants don't identify those benefits. Having bearing that in mind and bearing efforts to if you want to call it mislead public servants sometimes about how much you're being paid and so forth, and the important role they play, what is your message to public servants generally?
Well, actually, I would like to, first of all, congratulate them for the good work that they have been doing and to encourage them to continue because they're professionals in their own right. And I want to also, I don't want to say promise. I want to promise. When a politician says promise, people start blinking. So I don't want to say promise. I want to insist and let them know that their benefits, such as, and as you rightly said, there are many other spin-off benefits other than salaries and wages and salaries. They have some of the public servants, they have benefits such as duty-free concessions. There are other benefits such as we have been, when we were looking through some data the other day, and more than 85% of our public servants have had access to house lots because they're working within the government sector. They have access to loans. The other day, we passed first time homeowners will have a discount, and all, there are lots of other benefits. And I must say that I am still dissatisfied with the public service union, because I've oftentimes been asking them, let us discuss things outside of non-salary benefits for workers. It's probably going to be easier to have a non-salaried benefit than to have money. We may not have money, excuse me, to give in the readily to increase salaries, but we may be able to do other things. Let's look at things like I've asked them some time ago. Let's look at a buying club where they can have goods, food stuff, and other things to buy at a cost price, a fast turnover. Let the union can do that. The government will try to see how they can do the startup for it. Nothing of those, neither of those things are coming on stream.
What do you think, in closing, could be responsible for that kind of approach? Because, like I said, and you agree that the benefits sometimes are overlooked. What could be really responsible for the public, the union not responding to that?
I think it's there are lots of things, but basically it might be a little politics being played here and there, but more so I think it's more a management issue. I think it's more a vision. I think the time has come when we have to stop being narrow-minded and narrow-visioned and look at the whole picture of it. I think the union needs to look at the holistic thing and not just, hey, we want to fight about, I'm going to say 40% and we're going to fight about that, knowing fully well that the government may not even be able to pay 10%, but you're saying 40. What are we negotiating around? That's unrealistic. When we can sit and let's talk about 90% of our public servants, they have children. Another 30% may be single parents. Let's look at a daycare system. Can we, you understand? So that that will be money saving. That will be money saving. Let's look and see how we can have a daycare system. Those are the kinds of things I expect coming from them, but it's not coming forward. But I must say, and I always say, we are not going to sit and wait on the union to do these things. As I'm saying it, we are currently looking at doing them. We will have to do something like that. Look at how we can offset some of the expenses. We may not be able to give them money on their salaries, but we can save, let them save some of that money. So those are the things that this coming year we'll be looking at.
Minister, in closing, we have to wrap this up. Your closing comments with regards to the role of the public service in development.
Well, the public service, the role, they're here to ensure that all the government projects are implemented properly, and they do so. We may have one or two exceptions. There are always exceptions once you're dealing with people. And I want to once again tell the public out there, please, respect there is needed for our public officials, our professionals who work very hard. And most of you, they have children, husbands, wives in the public service. They are doing a good job, and we need to encourage them and ensure that they continue doing so. And I want to once again say thank you to each and every one of our public servants. And I can assure you that the government will do all within its power to ensure that you continue being comfortable in your day-to-day living within this country of ours, Guyana.
Honorable Minister of Public Service, Jennifer Westford, I want to thank you very much for joining us today. Of course, I think we've had quite a fruitful discussion, and I want to thank you very much for joining us at home. Do have a good rest of the evening.